Right now, as you're watching this, you're literally traveling through time, not in a DeLorean, not in a sci-fi movie, right now. And here's what is wild. If you were moving faster or standing next to something that is heavier, your time and my time wouldn't even match. That is not philosophy, that is physics. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand something about time most people never will. Before we get into the crazy physics, and trust me, we will, let us start with something you already know. Your brain. Your brain is not a clock. It doesn't tick at a steady pace. It is more like a storyteller. It decides how fast or slow time feels based on what is happening to you. When you're stressed, everything slows down. Your brain becomes hyper-aware, processing every second like it matters. Because to your body, it does. When you're having fun, your brain relaxes. It stops counting. And suddenly, hours feels like minutes. And when you're bored, say you're sitting in a waiting room, time doesn't just slow down, it punishes you. Think about it. Remember how long childhood summer felt? We stretched on forever, but right now, a whole year could disappear and you barely notice. That's not nostalgia. That's your brain literally processing time differently based on how many new experiences you're having. And here's something most people miss. How you perceive time affects your productivity, your happiness, and how long life feels. Not just how long it is, how long it feels. But humans weren't satisfied with just feeling time. They wanted to measure it. And that's where things start to get interesting. Go back far enough. There were no clocks, no calendars on the wall, no alarms going off at 6 a.m. People looked up. Sun rises, that was your day. Sun sets, that was your night. Could come back around, that was your year. Time wasn't numbers, it was patterns. Life moved in cycles and people moved with it. Your entire schedule was basically eat, survive, sleep, repeat. But eventually, watching the sky wasn't enough. People started asking deeper questions. What is this thing we are actually experiencing? The Greek thinkers took a crack at it. Aristotle said time is the measure of change. Think of it this way. If nothing really changes, nothing moves, nothing grows, nothing decays. Does time even exist? Here's the crazy part. Physicists are still arguing on this one today. Now, for a long time, no one improved on that idea until one person came and gave time a set of rules. Isaac Newton observed the universe and said time is absolute. It flows the same everywhere for everyone, no matter what is happening. Even if the universe were empty, no planets, no people, nothing, time would still be ticking away in the background. And over 200 years, nobody questioned it. Science built everything on this idea. Clocks, calendars, navigation, all assumed Newton was right. He wasn't. And the person who proved it changed everything we thought we knew. Albert Einstein came along and said something no one expected. Time and space aren't separate, they are stitched together. You see how you move through space, left, right, forward, backward, up, down? Einstein said time is another direction you move through. Not the one you see, but the one you always travel in. Space and time are one fabric. He called it space-time. Now, here is where it gets personal. How faster you move through time depends on two things: your speed and how much gravity pulls on you. Move really fast, near the speed of light, and your clock will tick slower compared to someone who is standing still. This isn't theory. Scientists have tested it. They put atomic clocks on jets and flew them around the world, brought them back, and the clocks were behind. By tiny fractions, sure, but still behind. The same happens to gravity. When you're close to something massive, planet or a star, the slower your time runs. Your GPS has to account for this right now, because the satellites up in orbits, they experience time slightly faster compared to you down here. So if they didn't account for that, your GPS will drift by kilometers every single day. So two people can literally experience different amount of time and both be correct. Einstein called this time dilation, which means time isn't this steady, universal thing Newton described. It bends, it stretches, it depends on where you are and how fast you're going. Which raises a question that might keep you up tonight. If time is fixed, what is it really? Alright, let us strip it down. Here's something that is going to shift the way you see the world. Clocks don't break time, they measure motion. Earth rotates, that gives us a day. Atoms vibrate, that gives us a second. Your heart beats, that gives you a sense of being alive. Agimo, at its core, time is just counting change, that's it. Simple, but our brains make it feel like it's something much bigger than that. So if time is just measuring change, why does it flow in one direction? That answer comes from one of the most important ideas in physics. When you drop a cup, it shatters. You've never seen those pieces fly back together and lay perfectly on the table. You age every day. You've never woken up younger. That is entropy. That is the universe's tendency to move from order to disorder. And that is what gives time direction. Scientists call it the arrow of time. And that's why you remember yesterday, not tomorrow. Because memory is the record of the change that has already happened. The past has already happened. It is written. The future has not been yet. Now, knowing time is a measure of change and it flows in one direction, the biggest question becomes, is it real? Is time real? Or did we make it up? This is where most scientists genuinely disagree. Some say time is fundamental. It is baked in the fabric of reality, whether we measure it or not, whether humans are there or not. Others say time is like temperature. Think of it this way. Heat is real. We can feel it. But degrees, Celsius, Fahrenheit, those are tools that we created to describe what we feel. Heat doesn't care what number you assign to it. Time might be the same way. The universe doesn't need hours, minutes, seconds. We do, to make sense of what is happening around us and make and organize change in something that our brains can work with. And if that is true, then the universe have never experienced time at all. We are the only ones who do. Let us sit in for a second, because what is coming next is going to take that even further. There may have been a moment at the very beginning of the universe where there was no before, no after, no ticking, no sequence, no past, no future, just existence. If time only exists because things change, then before the universe started changing, time didn't exist. And at very extreme places in the universe right now, near incredibly massive stars, at the edge of a black hole, time doesn't just slow down, it nearly stops. Picture this, you're falling toward a black hole. For you, minutes pass by normally, everything seems fine. But if you could somehow look back at Earth, centuries would be flying by. Everyone you knew, gone. Cities you recognized changed beyond recognition. Your 5 minutes became their 500 years. That is not science fiction. That is Einstein's math taken to its extreme. It is time dilation on a scale that breaks your brain. And some physicists even go further to say that past, present, and future already exist all at once, like every frame on a movie printed in one reel. We are not moving through time. We are just experiencing one frame at a time, calling it now, which means time. This thing that stresses you up, that you don't seem to have enough of, that controls your life, might be the biggest illusion of all time. And here is one more thing that ties it all together. The word time comes from an old English word called tima, which traces back to a Proto-Indo-European root, die, meaning divide, not a thing, not a substance, a division, separating day from night, later from now, before from after. Even language itself has been telling us the same story. Time is not something you can grab. It is the space between change. Time shapes your stress, it shapes your memories, it shapes your happiness, and yet it might not be what any of us think it is. So next time you catch yourself saying you don't have enough time, remember, time is not running away from you. You are moving through change, and the story of time is still being written.